if the market is a pie, how would you chop it up? And there's lots of ways to do that, but geographic is probably the one that, for real estate at least, that comes the most easily in people's minds, but there's tons of ways to do it.
So now let's apply that to the topic at hand, which is becoming a hyperlocal, hyperfast, perhaps even hyper-focused real estate agent. So Dan, what's the first step or first secret to becoming exactly what we just said?
I think the key is to take a step back and get an overall plan. A lot of realtors start off their career, and I think they don't really have a plan. So I learned this framework actually in business school called STP, which I think that they teach everyone like in Marketing 101 in business school now, but it stands for segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So, the first step is to segment your market. And that can be geographic, lifestyle, occupation, right? Like figure out how do you, if the market is a pie, how would you chop it up? And there's lots of ways to do that, but geographic is probably the one that, for real estate at least, that comes the most easily in people's minds, but there's tons of ways to do it. The next step is targeting. All right, so you've got all these different segments. Now you got to pick which one am I going to go after. The smaller, I think, the better when you're starting out. Most people struggle with having it, not be too big, right? Or they want to like be the agent for their whole city. Well, if you've got a town of 50,000 people, it's going to be hard to compete on Google. It's going to be hard to compete, if you're trying to market to everyone, especially when you compare it to what if you just tried a certain neighborhood, or what if you tried to become the real estate agent for all of the doctors in town, right? So in that example, right, instead of going after 50,000 people, go after 500 or 1,000, and you're going to be able to get ads in front of them more cost effectively. You're going to be able to get more direct mail. However you're marketing, you're going to be able to reach 500 or 1,000 people a lot easier. So you got to pick a target segment that is not too big, but it can't be too small. Like you don't want to get 100% share of 5 people. That's not enough, right? So obviously it's got to be a certain size. But and then the last step in this framework is positioning. How are you going to position yourself as someone that can add unique value and then communicate that to them in a clear and concise and consistent manner?
Excellent. And then we're going to apply that to your story and how you did this to start it out, right? By the way, you can learn more about Daniel at hyperfastagent.com, hyperfastagent.com. So talk about it. So, right, you jump right in, and what was your boots on the ground to niche down and to focus and to do the segmentation, targeting, and positioning?
So I decided to try and become the real estate agent for one condo building. I'm in Arlington, Virginia. There's, I think, about 250,000 people that live there. So, decent size city, not as big as some, but still pretty big. I didn't go after 250,000 people. I went after 200. There's about 190 units in this one condo building. And I think another thing too that with succeeding there was the building was about 3 years old, and that is an ideal time. I think if you're an agent who's new or just looking to expand into new markets, if you can find a neighborhood that's about 3 years old, turnover is about to start happening, and there's no established agent in there, because probably what happened is the builder sold it, had an agent that sold it, and they kind of moved on and did something else, and they probably haven't stayed in touch. So there's no dominant agent yet, and sales are coming. So it's a great way to go compete where there's not a lot of people in neighborhoods or buildings that are about 3 years old.
Totally smart. So, makes sense. Yep.
So that was my reasoning for what I did, and I hit this group of people with multiple types of marketing, Facebook groups. I was making Facebook groups back, or pages, I think, back then. I did open houses. I did buyer seminars, for the building. I did weekly email newsletters. So, 5 or 6 or 7 different ways networking. I think a lot of times in my book, I talk about finding gatekeepers. So those are people that, know a lot about a certain group of people. In my case, it was the person who worked at the front desk, the manager. They often knew who was going to move out, and that led to a lot of sales too. Just knowing who to go purposely try to talk to. So all of those kind of methods, some new, some traditional. I did it all, and it was all focused on two people, and I ended up getting half the sales in that building that year.
Amazing. Okay, so really segmenting down to literally one complex, right, that had about 190 units, and focusing like a laser by serving that community, educational, seminars, buyers, understanding anything to add value, open houses, the community, Facebook groups, multiple ways to just provide value, and focus like a laser. So when did your first sale come? When and how did that go down?
I think the first one was a buyer I found. They don't have this category, I believe, on Zillow anymore. It was on Zillow Make Me Move. So that's a type of listing that used to be available on Zillow. It's not anymore, but it basically was kind of like a for sale by owner, but the person really wasn't selling. They were just throwing a number out there, kind of a high number typically, and saying, if I get this number, I'll move. You can make me move. I'm not looking to sell, but I'll do it for. I used to contact all of those when I saw them, and these people were looking for a single family home in the area, and help them find that. And then I listed their condo. It sold really quickly, pretty close to. Or right at the price that they, their kind of dream price that they wanted on Zillow. I think that was a couple months after I got my license, so it didn't take too long. I was still working my contractor job at the time, so it was I did about 2 sales, I think, before my pipeline got so big that I quit that job.
Fantastic.